to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. I'm your host, Connie Whitman, and I'm happy that you're here with my guest and I today. Now, to help you change your perspective, right, on that word, we hear that word change, and I know we all go into a tailspin, right? If we choose the change, it feels a lot better than when change is thrust upon us. But I truly hope as you tune in every week between my guests and I, that we help you on this journey of change and hopefully make it just a smidge easier so that we can really just elevate and execute life from a place of grace and ease, right? That's what we're looking for. If you're loving the show, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Rate and review. That warms my heart when I see the love notes from you guys. And of course, sharing is caring. If you could share it with your peeps, that is also greatly appreciated. Now, my motivational quote today is by Steve Pavlina. And Steve says, recover from negativity, become conscious, live responsibly, live responsible. Let me do this again, kids. Recover from negativity, become conscious, live responsibly, spiritually, and be present in your personal development. Now, I started my business when I was 39 years old, and I had 2 babies at home, and I felt like most of the time I was holding on by a thread, people. The thread of being the mom, the business owner, what hat was I wearing? And I've heard people speak about this professional and personal lives as if they're separate entities. And here's the deal. I have found that truly we are one beautiful and flawed person who need to navigate and shift from that one perspective to another, and hopefully as easily as possible. And around my 40th birthday, I all of a sudden in my inbox, I started to receive emails about law of attraction, other spiritually driven topics. I had no idea about any of these concepts of manifestation and that your thoughts become reality, right? Wow. What an eye-opener and a life changer for me. And for the past 20 years, my spiritual and personal growth, I think, has helped me manifest the successful business that I have. And I don't think it was by accident. I think that it happens by choice. And today, my guest and I, she's a good friend, Meghann Conter, and we're going to dig into why we all need to be healthy in mind, body, and spirit to be able to flourish in our career and in whatever our professional lives are. Now, Meghann uses her power, and she's got great powers, people, to connect, elevate, entertain, and celebrate extraordinary women as the CEO of the Dames. The Dames are a global incubator for the greatest of women running and leading 6, 7, and even 8-figure businesses. Now, Meghann believes that anything can be accomplished through fearless collaboration, laughter, fun, and love. And once a burnout, over-networked CEO, she is now the global ultra connector for women who thrive in the space where self-worth and net worth align. Please help me welcome my amazing friend and guest to the show. Megs, thanks for being on.
Oh, Connie, I'm super excited, and especially to be on your, as you call it, woo-woo podcast, which is my jam. It is my jam. And I love to be able to speak about it freely. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, it's truly an honor and true story. I had no spiritual, maybe it was intuitive to some extent prior to that 40th birthday. And it's life-changing, for the past 20 years, the past 2 decades. Now, anybody listening, here's the deal. Meghann is truly a networking expert. She and I recorded a show May of 2021. It's episode 30 on changing the sales game. I highly recommend checking that out because she gave some amazing tips on how to build your network and grow your community so that we thrive together. So check that out. It's episode 30 on changing the sales game podcast. All right, first question. Obviously, this is a podcast about those heart-centered business CEOs and other biz professionals, which to me means changing and remaining relevant is critical for us to survive in this business world. How do you feel you exemplify this element of that heart-centered change and relevance with your business?
Yeah. I love the purpose behind this podcast that you have and just your approach to sales as well, because I do feel like once you have gone into that experience of having spirituality in your life, or you've become conscious and aware, you can't go back. And it's really, that whole bifurcation that I almost feel like you were talking about of when I was in corporate America and coming out, and I felt like, God, I had been this bifurcated person, professional over here, personal over here, walking around split down the middle, and it just doesn't feel right. And so in terms of being that, getting to that space of realizing that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience here, and that we are connected to one another and to source through our hearts, that is really that's what unites us. And we're walking around in a culture that is very heady and very, thinking about things from that space of thoughts all the time. And we rarely, as a society, stop and say, let's stop and get connected to our hearts and come from that space, which is a very different space to lead from. It's a very different space to operate from. And our hearts don't resist change like our minds do. Our minds think change is going to thwart us in some way. Our minds are really doing their jobs to keep us in the know, because minds have pathways that they have created, and it knows, if I go this way, this is how I'm going to do things, and that feels good. And our minds, when presented with change, a lot of times, until we start practicing neuroplasticity and other things, our minds think, nope, I'm not going to go do that, because that's a whole nother route that I have to go figure out. But what's interesting about change is, if we can embrace the liminal space, oh man, that is when things really get rocking and rolling. So I learned this concept a few years ago of liminal space when I was in my spiritual journey, because I kept feeling that, like, gosh, why is it that I love change and I'm great with change, but why is it that the actual time of transformation is so freaking hard?
Yeah.
When you feel like you're squeezing yourself down so small and you're having to, get pressed into a diamond because you're going through the eye of a needle and you don't know what's on the other side. And so many humans, the mind, when it pictures what's on the other side, that's what stops us from actually going through it. Yeah. But if we can trust enough in our hearts leading us, and we can go through that space, things on the other side are miraculous. It's that liminal space, which, if you look it up in spiritual terms, is the time in between what we know and what we don't yet know. Yeah. And it's that transformation time that just feels like, it can either feel like extremely painful, or it can just feel uncomfortable, like you're putting on a pair of frozen underwear. That's what I like to say.
I love that. You know what's funny? Megs? When I started this journey, right, the executives always come through my training, because we have a coaching component, and they need to know what their employees are learning, so that when they go back and they start to practice the skills I'm teaching, right, that there's accountability, but also there's this level of reinforcement, right? And so the executives, and then I always say, hey, listen, we made some changes to the program as requested, because as time goes on, skill level of their employees go up. We have to raise the bar and change the program. So then the executives will come back through. And it was really funny. I guess I was maybe 45. So I was in business maybe 5 or 6 years. And so we were doing the reiteration with some of the clients I had been working with for those few years. And they would come through my training. And one in particular, she said to me, wow, she said, I feel like you've come into your own. And I said, oh, what do you, yeah, I've been in business 6 years now. I'm thinking she meant from a business framework. She goes, no, she said, you bring in energy, and you talk about clients feeling our energy, and they're responding to that sale from this energetic place. Now, I didn't make a big deal about it, but it was part of my training. As I evolved, I didn't even realize, Meg, I was sharing those pieces of the puzzle, all right, of this energetic exchange. And you know what started happening? I was getting more business, because I started to grow into myself, if you will, I think. And because it's authentic and it's real, and it was more heart-centered. I was always heart-centered, but now I was verbally like using these heart-centered types of words and phraseology and vibration and energy, that it started resonating, because my clients are heart-centered, of course, because I wouldn't work with someone whose values don't align with me. They just wouldn't hire me, and I wouldn't accept the business. So here, all of a sudden, the growth, my own personal growth, I felt exploded, because I was being received from these corporate entities, blew my freaking mind.
Totally. And it's this, a similar thing happened to me in my spiritual journey in terms of like, so in 2010, that's pretty much when I feel like I awakened to something bigger than myself. I had been in my own business for about 1.5 years by then. I was still not feeling like I knew where I was, in terms of like, where am I headed and how am I going to do this? But I started working with a coach who had me do this exercise she calls the lotus of life. And you basically rate yourself in all these different areas. And the area where I was the lowest was spirituality. And, I had been raised in Protestant beliefs, and I went to church. I was confirmed. I went through confirmation, blah, blah, blah. But I never felt any connection to any of it. And I went through college and I went through the early, my early adult years. And I just was like, I don't feel any connection to any of this. And I don't feel any connection to anything bigger than me. And so I just set in, and I didn't know I was setting intention, but I did at that time say, I am curious about what is bigger than me that's out there and how can I get connected to it. And of course, the universe, as I say now, like started delivering things to me to really see how it shows up and how I could interact with it. And I met some individuals who are participating in an organization called Access Consciousness, which is a cool one to get you started in the world of like removing judgment and connecting to energy and connecting to how the body, mind, spirit connection works. And, all of these different things. And I was going somewhere with this. What were you just, yes. So as I started developing my intuition in business and in life, just getting to be into that space of trust of intuition and understanding that I'd had it my whole life, but I didn't know what it was. And I didn't know how to tap into it. And I didn't know how to trust it. So I started really working in that space of tapping into that intuition. And I began to insert that into the marketing consulting work I was doing at the time, where I could really sit there and become a channel for the information coming through and have that come out of my mouth, which most of the time I had to record, because when you're really channeling, you have no idea what you're saying. It's coming straight through. So I owned, when I got to that point of owning that I was so unique as a marketing consultant because I was channeling intuitive ideas from God knows where.
Right.
And I just started integrating intuition into my creative approach. That was when I got in alignment with things, and so did everyone else around me. And I started magnetizing the right kinds of clients.
Right.
Before that, I felt like this disconnect, and that my clients really just I didn't connect with them in the same kind of way that I wanted. And I didn't really know what the work was that I was doing. But once I embraced that side of myself of, oh, I have this whole ethereal side, this whole spiritual side of me that wants to come out and wants to play with other people who believe these same things or see these same things, that's when everything shifted.
And it's funny because you're younger than me. So I think, and you were in a business about a year and it's exactly what happened to me. It's really kind of funny. You are a sister from another mother for me. I know the first time we met, I said that, but it's funny. And I agree that it was intuitive prior to the awareness, right? That I started getting these emails. The emails were probably always there. I just deleted them. I didn't notice them until all of a sudden I was ready for that shift. And then it was like miraculous. They were in my inbox, but I will share a quick story. So when I met my husband later in life, quote unquote, and I remember coming home to isn't this it? I'm telling you, it's like, and you're out Midwest and I'm here on the East Coast, but my, Italian household. And I remember I came home and the whole dating scene was so labor intensive for me. And I felt like they're all idiots, right? Mentally, this is where my head was. So I came home to my Italian mother and I said, I made a very big decision. She's like, what's that? And I was in sales. I was making good money, thank God. And I said, I have enough money. I'm going to buy a house and then I'm going to adopt a child. And she almost had a heart attack on the spot. And she, what are you talking about? And I said, let me tell you, men, I just can't find the right man. I'm not going to settle. I know I need a child. I don't need a man to make me happy, complete me, whatever. Fast forward, I sat down probably about a month before I had this conversation with my mom. and randomly started writing a pro and a con list of what I needed in a man that would truly make me happy. And then on the flip side, the non-negotiables, like a gambler, a drinker, all of those things that for me were non-negotiable. I would not marry someone or date someone who had those attributes. And after I wrote that, I said this to my mom, and I basically walked away from the entire dating pool. Who do I meet but my husband? And we were married. We got married. I was 30 when we got married. I met him when I was 29. And later we were moving, Meghann, and I found the list. He had all of the qualities I wanted and more. And all the non-negotiables, he had none of them. So I was manifesting without realizing I was manifesting. And then the whole conversation happened about the inbox with the spirituality. So anybody that's listening to Meghann and I as we speak, I'm telling you, you're manifesting, whether you realize it or not. Hopefully our conversation today helps you tap into it quicker to make all of the change that's happening in your life easier. Like Meghann said, all of a sudden she became this magnet of attraction. She didn't change, just her thinking and how she positioned herself in her own life, her own heart changed, right, Meg?
What I accepted about myself is what changed. Like what I was willing to, and then I was willing to market about myself because I put it out there as I am an intuitive marketing coach. So it was that, and you are going to freak the heck out about this synchronicity, Connie, because that same coach that I was working with was also she's a multi-purpose, multi-talented woman. And she had a component where she was a soulmate coach. So at the time I was also wanting to find my someone. And so the thing she had me do was stop dating and remove all the dating apps, because I was a little bit addicted to those at the time. Stop doing them and make a pros and cons list. And from an energetic perspective, though, she wanted me to write something about, the feeling that he would give me and the attributes that he would have from an energetic level, not physically what he would look like, etc. And so I stopped all the dating sites. I stopped dating. And then wouldn't you know, I met him and we started dating, and it took us a little bit longer to get married, but same kind of thing. He had all the energetic components of everything that I had been looking for. Isn't that funny?
Yes. And I'll make you laugh, and everybody listening will giggle. I don't know if I've ever shared this before. On our second date, now my husband's 5 years younger than me. Remember, I had given up dating. I was buying a house and adopting a baby. This man thing didn't work for me, right? Our second date, I said to him, you should marry me. And I said, I'm not saying tomorrow, I could care less. I am in no rush for any of this, but you should marry me because you and we cover our blind spots. We are unstoppable as a team. And he stayed with me. He didn't leave me. And within a year we didn't even know each other a year and a half when we were married. So he knew I was right, Meghann. He knew I was right.
Yes. And it's interesting because at the same token with my husband, he was, at the time, he, like, on paper, he would not have looked like someone that I would have dated. He was not in a really great space, but as soon as we started dating, I had already been on this path of spirituality for a couple of years. And I was traveling around the world with a consciousness leader who's an amazing woman. And I was part of her team. And he saw right off the bat, if I don't kind of follow this woman, I'm going to lose her. Like, if I don't go down that path of exploring things the way that she is, not the way that she is, but that space of opening my heart and really looking at who I am as a conscious spiritual being, I'm not going to be able to stay with her because she's just going to go someplace I'm not. So he started kind of coming along that not the same path, because we're never on the same path, but a very similar path as me. And that was really so we started our relationship in that space of spiritual exploration.
It's magical. It's magical. And yet it's simple. Yet we don't make it simple. It's because of our little human pea brain, right? That we try to complicate everything. All right. So I have to ask, because we are business owners, right? And yes, I love my woo side and I lean into it all the time, and it guides me to make good decisions, both, as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, but also as a business owner. How has your spiritual journey, how have you seen it directly impact your business? Yes, people were showing up. Okay. But how in other ways have you seen that impact direct to your bottom line as a business owner?
It's really interesting because as you kind of said it at the beginning, and I completely agree. I just say it in a little different way that we can only grow as much professionally as we are willing to grow personally.
Yeah.
And I started my personal growth work in my 20s, and really was going down more the road of landmark and PSI seminars, which I don't know if you know what those are, but it got me to a good place, but then I kind of moved away from it. And then when I started into the spirituality of things, that was when it was like, oh, wow, there's a reason why I didn't go more down that personal growth path, because spiritual growth is really where I am able to access the depth of myself. And so as my personal growth journey, what I would call my spiritual growth journey has gone, my business has gone as well. It's been sort of like a roller coaster that mostly goes together. There are times when they don't really go together, and I'm kind of like, showing my hands going contrary to each other. But for the most part, they have gone together. And I've seen those points at which I have ultimate spiritual epiphanies or a deeper connection with myself, my intuition, my higher self. And at those moments, that's when my business performs better. At those moments when I really make the time and I make that intentionality to be in my deepest connection of self and in trust of what I'm hearing and what I'm experiencing from my intuition, that's when my business does the best. It doesn't mean that humanness doesn't get in the way. It does. And there are times when I just feel like I've fallen off the spiritual train. And I just, at a lot of times I will receive those little, I call them nudges, or if I'm not listening, then there'll be a little bit more of like a slap across the, the head. And then I feel like an Italian grandma right now. And then if you're not listening, then I'm going to hit you with a spiritual 2x4 right across the head. And those things really do happen at times of like, hey, you haven't been doing the things that that are great for you. So it is interesting how it directly and indirectly affects the business. But the more that I make time and am intentional about being in my spiritual practice, the better I am and the better my business does.
It's funny when COVID hit, right? I did everything live. I wasn't digitized at all. I had no email list. I have any of those things in place, 2.5 years ago. And when I started the journey on the digital realm, right? My spirituality, it's so funny, Meghann, that as you were saying that, I was thinking, my thoughts were, I don't have enough money. I can't figure this out. How am I going to do this? What do I do? Do I close my business? It was all of this negative thought because of this unknown of change, right? We were all going through it. I don't think I'm special, right? We were all going through it. But instead of approaching it from surrender, the answers will come to me. I was, and I forget the Greek guy, syphilis, but I know it's not that. The boulder on the shoulder, cephasis or something. The guy with the boulder that's going uphill, up the mountain. That's what I felt like. And I thought, totally. I can't do this anymore. What do I do now? And it was really, I was very, very distraught because how do I fail? Like, to me, failure is not an option. And yet everything was a challenge. I felt like it was just one roadblock after another. And then when I shifted my thinking back to surrender, the universe will provide. It will figure it out. It'll help me figure it out. Everything shifted and pivoted. And I think that's approximately when I probably found you. It was almost a year in. Just fascinating how things find you. We are our own worst enemy. It's a true statement. But we don't always know how to navigate. So I truly hope that our conversation today, somebody's going, wait, I feel like I'm there. What do I need to do? And there's so many wonderful resources out there, which we'll talk about later. Next question, Megs.
Well, I want to say one thing about what you were just talking about, because it's funny. This year has been a challenging year for me, just through and through. It has been challenging. And there was a point at which I was like, I am pushing a freaking boulder up a hill right now. And the guidance that I received at that time was, are you even pushing the right boulder? And why are you pushing? And it was like, I had to, and surrender was a big part of that. And I have a hard time surrendering. I think our human nature and our mind is to control things, and our spiritual nature and tells us control is an illusion, because we are not greater than God, the universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it. We are not. We do have say, and we have choice in the way that we do things and the way that we react versus act.
We will. Mhm.
But that space of surrender sometimes requires us to say, oh my gosh, maybe I should just step aside and let this damn boulder roll back down the hill, because I'm not even pushing the right freaking boulder.
That's right.
And we just have to hit those periods of time. And we can either, I think the hard part as women is that we've been taught that the hustle and the grind is somehow glorious and it's somehow needed as an entrepreneur. And that is such bull. And we have a hard time as women realizing that in our femininity, in our divine femininity, that is not our nature. And when we can actually embrace our divine feminine qualities of creativity, receptivity, surrender, and let go of the control, trusting in our hearts and trusting in our own divine knowing, things become easier. And we realize I'm pushing the wrong boulder up the wrong hill.
That's so brilliantly said. And it's funny because I think when we do ultimately surrender, I think sometimes pushing the wrong boulder uphill was needed to learn how
Absolutely.
to surrender. So I don't think anything happens for the wrong reason. I think everything happens for a reason. And for me to do that struggle for that year of pushing the wrong boulder up the hill, I needed to do that to realize the inner strength that I had and the inner wisdom I had. And I forgot about it. I abandoned it, but not totally, but I didn't trust in it because I thought, no, I know better. I have to work harder. I have to put 12 hours a day in because that's how I'm going to make a difference. And you know what? It was all bull. So, but I do believe I needed to go through that to remind me of the divine and that
Absolutely.
I have everything I need within me. I have to surrender. And I like you, I'm a type A personality. I'm a get it done kind of chick, which sometimes could be a detriment because it is hard to surrender, but you have to. So again, wherever you are listening here, whatever you're going through, you probably do have to go through to come out the other side to learn what you're supposed to be learning, in this human experience. So yeah, I just wanted to add that one piece.
And the solution may not look like you think it will. It probably won't.
That's right.
And when you think it's what we get to go through as our journey is realizing that our intuition speaks to us in ways that sometimes, a lot of times, don't cognitively make sense. So we really get to figure out what is our intuition speaking and what is our mind trying to keep us small or keep us away from fear.
Yeah.
And
safe.
Yeah, safe. That would be an easier way of saying that. So, we really get to figure out okay, my intuition told me this, but that doesn't seem like anything that I would have ever thought of. Yes, that's it. Go that way. Go that route. It's that thing that you wouldn't think of. It's that thing that you feel, that inkling or that intuition or that instinct of, oh, something is telling me something here and I need to pay attention to it. But gosh, I'm asking for a solution to this problem and it's telling me, just get yourself to this point. This is what happened to me this year. Just get yourself to the point of doing your conference.
Yeah.
Okay, but what do I need to do right now? Just get yourself to that point. And then as soon as I got to that point, the miracle revealed itself and started happening right in front of my eyes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this is what it would look like. And it looked nothing like I could have imagined. And it was bigger and brighter and more amazing than anything I could have planned or strategized with my mind.
Your husband, my husband, as soon as we both said dating, delete the apps. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. I'm an independent woman.
Yep.
He found me, or I found him, or he was in front of me. I just never saw him because it never dawned on me because I was so exasperated. So you did the same thing when you deleted the app. You're thinking, it's fine, man. I got to be on the apps. I got to be on all the datings, right? As soon as you deleted them, he was in front of you. So it's exactly what you said. The miracle is there. We just literally have to take off the blinders and see it. Hey, man, this is all easier said than done. Megs and I know it's easier.
Yes.
done. But it
But it's so
works and it's
helpful to
real.
hear.
It
And it's
is.
helpful to hear
You're
that
not
you're
alone.
not crazy and you're
Yeah,
not alone.
you're not crazy and you're not alone. Last question, because we're out of time, but I do want you to talk to this because within the Dames, it's the community where I don't even know how I found you. Somebody referred me probably. And Meg and I met, and that was it. It was a fast and furious friendship because you could see we have so many synchronicities together. We have corporate, we have business owners in our community. There's 6 and 7 figures and beyond, right? That some are 8-figure earners. What do you recommend for women and men that are listening to make sure that they have what they need to grow in their career or business to get to that 6, 7, or 8 figures and beyond? Because you really are the this is your zone of genius.
I mean, I really feel like connection is at the heart of everything. So it's connection to your own heart, connection to your own truth and your own aligned vision of where you need to go for yourself. We all have an aligned plan and we can see it, we can feel it, we can experience it if we create that space to get quiet and we create that regularity of visualization or that regularity and consistency of getting into a meditative space and seeing where is it that I'm headed. Because once we have that big picture North Star, that's what guides us all the way along. And whether we fall off the path, that's when our spirituality will come back and give us that loving tap that I talked about, or that spiritual 2x4 if we're not listening. And the more that we can really tap into that intuition and that knowing and understand those messages and how they come through, the easier every single thing becomes as we're making decisions in business and in life. And, it's not all just spirituality, but it's that whole thing that you said at the beginning. It's that mind, body, spirit blend. And if we're not taking care of our bodies, then our bodies can be the cause of us going unhinged or going off path. If we're not taking care of our minds and our mental health, that can be the thing that goes off path. And if we're not taking care of our spiritual health, that is also something that can really, unhinge us. And, people might say, well, I don't have any feeling about any kind of connection to any higher power. And I don't know what to say in that regard. But what I can say is you have intuition, and that intuition speaks to you, whether you hear it or not, but you can choose to hear it, and it can really create the awakening of miracles that you can't get through your mind or your body.
It's true. And it is about connection, communication, energetic exchange. It's all
Connection
about that.
ourselves and others and our higher self.
Absolutely. And it's just energy. It's movement of energy externally. And I said it before, right? We're human, but we're so beautiful and flawed. And us flawed is what makes us so, I think, darn special, and actually creates whatever our zone of genius is, right? Those flaws can, you said it before, right? If they're under pressure, they become diamonds. And so I think that we judge ourselves too harshly, and that's just really dangerous. But I agree with you. People show up, and I know within the Dames, our group, right, our community, that you happen to be the CEO of, the right people show up at the right time as I need or as I have questions, et cetera. So yeah, I love everything you just said. Guys, here's the deal. We'd love to have you become part of the Dames. So I would love you to come and play, because that would be so much fun.
Yes.
The website, right? Of course. The website is the Dames, DAMES.co, not .com. If you want to email and get some information or whatever, connect with Meg another way, it's funhub@thedames.co. And Meghann is wonderful. If you're like, oh, another networking, I don't know, we allow you to test it here at the Dames. And it's thedames.co/roundtable. You come and you actually immerse yourself in what it would be like to be part of the Dames group. And you see the amazing people that are part of the community, heart-centered, lovely, helpful, always there, always there to support whatever's happening in life and business. So highly recommend. Again, it's thedames.co. And then if you're interested, you could, of course, email me, or you can do funhub@thedames.co, and we could get you hooked up with the round table so you could test us and come and play and see how amazing we are. By the way, did I mention that?
Yes. People like Connie multiplied times 10.
Yeah, 10x. There's how many are in the group now, Meg?
Almost 500.
Yeah. And we have different, I belong to the virtual because we don't have a home base here in Jersey, but we get together in our little pods of people. We do LinkedIn together in pods, and we meet globally, and you do the conference, which I was unable to come to because I was traveling for business. But there's many, many ways to connect. You're not literally in a Zoom room with 500 people. So please don't let that turn you off like, oh, another big one. It doesn't work out that way. And it becomes this very intimate community
Exactly.
that we're all amazing. Again, have I said that? How amazing.
All freaking amazing. High caliber women who are running 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses. We are badass, heart connected, heart centered women.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's how we roll.
That's right.
Meg, thank you so much. We're out of time. I love my time with you always. And you have a special place in my heart. I think what you're doing is amazing. It's needed. And I'm honored to be part of your community as well. So thank you so much. Yeah. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together. No matter where you on your journey of change, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. I truly hope my guests and I, and today, Meg and my conversation, I just hope it helps you see things with a little more clarity, or have made you a little bit more curious. Curiosity is a beautiful skill to lean into and develop. Again, reach out to Meg. You can reach out to me. We'd love to have you be part of our community for sure. But again, I hope that whatever information you learned from me, the show, my guests, information's a beautiful thing. If we do nothing with it, it's just information, guys. Take it, implement it, apply it to your life, execute. Action creates reaction. And that is where the freaking magic is waiting for you. Thank you again, Meg. Thank you for tuning in to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.net. I truly am honored to have you on this journey of change with me, and hope that you tune in weekly and learn something new or be inspired by our conversation. I wish you an inspired week filled with love and a ton of freaking fun. And I'll see you all next week. Thanks again, Meg. Thank you all for tuning in.